Hello, Breathe community. My name's Sean, and this is Mel. We are here to be able to bring you a cushion conversation. We both were just kind of plopped in here, don't really know where we're going to go with the conversation or what's going to happen, but I understand that we've got a little bit of link between what we do in the world, and so I imagine we're just going to wander with that and see where we go. Wonderful to be able to sit here with you, Mel.
So nice. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Sean. So tell me a little bit about you, your background. I have no idea about anything. I just know that, we have this common background.
Yeah, Chelsea let me know that we both work in mental health. I didn't know about that about you. We here at the Breathe community, all the teachers definitely live our own busy lives in and out doing all kinds of things. And we've been brought to this place here in our unique ways, and finding out that there's another person in mental health that's found their way into meditation and found the power of it is really great to hear.
Totally.
And wonderful to spend this time kind of delving into what that means for you and myself.
Yeah.
I suppose.
I think I'm going to learn a lot.
I'm sure we both will.
That's what's exciting for me. Yeah.
So for myself, I'm very much kind of in the newer pieces of my career in mental health.
Okay.
I'm in the wrapping phases of getting my master's in counseling and depth psychology. And so I've been spending about the past 2 years working as a practicum student, providing therapy for the community, working with everything from families, adolescents, conditions from depression, suicidality, anxiety, all kinds of different aspects, even trauma pieces. And so really I've spent a lot of time getting an understanding of different aspects of mental health, following that up with more education. And along that same way, I started to tap into the meditation community here in Dallas. And for myself, I saw so many parallels between the two. And it was such a magical thing to really be exploring my counseling education and deeper education in meditation on top of each other, because there really were so many pieces that started to resonate together. You kind of see different systems that use different names in different ways, but still conveyed much of the same premise.
That's right.
So that's been a lot of my journey. I'm sure we can unfold more into that, but can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, that really resonated for me too. I saw both of those worlds in my life colliding too. It collide is a little bit of a strong word, but meshing and
Feels strong when it happens.
Yeah, true. And especially for me, when I started my own personal journey with meditation, I had no earthly idea that I would be going down this career path. I mean, I was nowhere near mental health at that time.
Really?
I was working as a real estate agent in New York. Yeah, and I was super stressed out, burnt out, and was in my mid-20s, and was like, all right, I need this for me. I need to heal. And it was just a journey, and about an 8-year journey of just not solitary. It's not like I was in a cave somewhere, but my own inner journey. And then in the course of all of that, I decided there was a deeper calling there. I went back to school. I got my master's degree. I'm an LPC. It was amazing. And then slowly but surely seeing that, that expression, bloom where you're planted. I was working as a waitress in a cocktail bar. No, I was working as a counselor at a women's shelter, and there was always this calling within me to do something there. And so it was about 8 years in, and I really thought, okay, at this point, Melissa, you're being selfish. You have to give. You've got to share. You've got to give back. And so I asked them, can I do a support group for these women, severely traumatized, as you know? And they were like, yeah, sure. Everyone's so overwhelmed and overworked. They didn't really care what I was doing, just as long as I was doing something that sounded good and I seemed to know what I was doing. So it just blossomed from there. And I was like, wow, this is powerful. These two worlds coming together it almost seemed like it sped up your typical traditional therapeutic path. We could take 2 years to talk about your issues, or, maybe we can take 10 weeks and just go deeper in, heal the body. I mean, this is now I'm fast forwarding well into like current day what I do.
And being able to adapt and build that program.
But I think for me, that was the initial spark. And what it is now is just the magic in the process when meditation can kind of run alongside and interweave into that work. For me, it's better than anything I've ever read, studied. I feel like this is the best way for healing. My own personal take.
I really have to support that 100% for myself as well. I mean, it's something that not only I experienced myself when I came into finding meditation, but also in bringing it into practice as well in the therapeutic setting. Really, as you said, it seems as if it really speeds up that process of healing in such a unique way.
Yes.
So much of a core of what therapy really is a therapist sitting, and maybe this is more just psychodynamic therapy because every style has its own way, but at the core, therapy is about the relationship and about reflecting on what's happening in the dynamic of the relationship and the repeated patterns that come up in that.
Yeah.
And when you're doing that with a therapist, it takes time, one, to create that relationship, but then two, for the therapist or someone in the space to notice, oh, okay, here's the cycle we're trapped in.
Yeah.
Now let's bring this to awareness. But meditation is somewhat of an invitation for someone to find that themselves without having to create that outside relationship first.
Yes.
And so when you create
you
create that image, that relationship with yourself, because you already have it, and you start to recognize those patterns, you start to recognize those cycles, and you start to recognize, hey, there's something here that doesn't serve me. It's sort of a way of just providing these invitations to recognizing what's there. And so that's one thing I have to echo that 100%. I have seen bringing meditation to a person's self-process and being able to reflect on the process that's going on in that meditation is something that I have seen people make immense leaps in therapy in just a couple of sessions.
Yeah, it's incredible. I was just talking to a client. We finished up I kind of start people on a certain amount of a journey, like an introductory journey. And then at the end of that, we kind of look and assess, how did it go? Did they feel they got what they wanted, needed, and all of that? And a lot of times, oftentimes people will say, if they've been in therapy, that this could have been 4 years in therapy. And what happens in 10 weeks is, I mean, again, because of that, the process itself. But you said something that really struck me just now about the therapeutic relationship and how it does change as you sit with someone with meditation as the first component of what you're doing with that person. So for me, I have the LPC, but I don't lead with that. I really try to explain to people it is really there as a holding environment, because what I'd rather do is how you describe the other, which is be a guide for that person to do that inner work. I really don't care so much about the therapeutic relationship, although that could be useful at times if something were to emerge, of course. But I love supporting people in what you said about the inner space that can happen in meditation. So I'm curious if you have, what's your sort of take on how you see your role in this world doing this work?
Interesting way of asking. I mean, I very much resonate with what you're saying in terms of being the guide. And I think that goes also to how I often use the word invitation when describing meditation, when doing meditations or going into any of this work, because doing this work and really healing in anyone's individual process is not something you can force.
No.
It's not something you can push on them. It's not a decision you can make for them.
No.
It's something that is purely in and of themselves.
That's right.
And it has to come from within them. They have to find that self-direction. Otherwise, the change that's being sought isn't really going to be found.
That's right.
And so seeing myself as a guide, not only as a guide, but as a guide that's not necessarily trying to sway people in a way, but leaving invitations.
Totally.
Kind of like
100%.
Hansel and Gretel, just leaving little breadcrumbs behind.
Yes, of course.
And hoping that someone's behind gobbling them up along the way and finding their way to a deeper place of peace.
Yes, I would completely agree. Yeah, the concept of guide is an interesting one, because on the one hand, it could indicate that there is a prescribed path, and that this is this one path, and here you are, and we're, whoever's the guide is the one leading one down that path. And I don't agree with that at all. I think the way you described it is really the heart of it, which is to create a space that says, this is what we're doing here. We're doing this with you, for your highest self. And my role is to say, I may have experienced some of these challenges that you're now experiencing. Here's what I've seen in others and seen in myself and read and studied, and here that is. And I think that's what we can offer as professionals in this field, is that they're not doing it blindly, that they're doing it themselves, but it's almost like someone's learning to ride a bike for the first time, and then you've got someone there holding it, and then at some point it's like, you don't even need me, and that can happen in the first 1 minute of the conversation, really, right? So I think we have this really cool calling. I mean, at least I should ask you that. Did it feel like a calling? Okay, for you.
And I mean, definitely, I resonate a lot with what you had said earlier in terms of finding that calling and the path that you went on. But another thing that you were talking about is a really important piece that I feel is necessary to highlight, which is that we are guides for the process, not guides for the content or the outcome.
That's nice.
That we're guides for the process. And part of what brings that up for me is, as you were talking about kind of how you go through it. And it's very similar, it sounds like, to the way that I introduce it into therapy, where you make sure you might hold the meditation, bring in some content that is a little bit open-ended, that might provoke certain unconscious content to come forward. But what's most important is the next phase, where you actually reflect and process on what went on. I think it was Irvin Yalom that discussed, especially in group therapy, that it is that reflection process that really grounds whatever's going on, that whatever contents come up, whatever experiences come forward, if someone just cuts off there and walks away, you're going to lose the treasure.
That's right.
But if you can sit with it and be able to reflect and process what just happened.
And here we come in with sitting with it. Here's a little extra piece and an extra little layer of padding where your traditional therapeutic space doesn't come in with that. So here again, we can see this dance and this weaving of both of these disciplines, for lack of a better word, and how when they can come in, each one that's needed, that sometimes there's value more in leaning in one than the other. But I love that, sit with it is really now, it could possibly be an even bigger invitation, right?
That's right. Well, there's those counterbalancing pieces of leaning into resistance and finding comfort.
Yes.
So we do want to find comfort. We do want to be able to be at peace and whole. But a lot of times people get defended from leaning into any sort of resistance that can allow growth.
That's right.
And oftentimes people that come to see a therapist, come to see someone for healing, they're searching for that piece of growth. And so there's this gentle dance that has to happen in between gently leaning into resistance without too much and then allowing that to find some comfort. It's kind of like blowing up a balloon. It's just every breath getting a little bit bigger until one's consciousness grows full.
Yeah, it's truly an amazing thing. So are you you're in the process of the hours, right?
Well, I've got my
Your
hours
LPC?
finished up.
Oh, okay,
Well, I
cool.
don't have LPC started up just yet. Right as
Okay, 'cause
graduation was coming,
that's
and
fun.
yeah, that's a lot of hours. But yeah, right as graduation was coming up and the school year was wrapping, everyone went shut in. Everything kind of went shut down.
That's
So
right.
there's a little bit of a navigation process going on right now, but sometime soon I should be able to wrap up the degree and start up the LPC path, going ahead and working towards my test, and then all the wonderful hours I'll get to collect over the years.
Yeah. I have to say, I love your guided meditations.
Oh,
like
thank
you go
you.
somewhere so beautiful, and this is just a personal curiosity. Tell me, if you're comfortable, what that process is like for you, because this seems like I am transported when I listen to you, so I'm wondering what happens for you.
I really appreciate you saying that. That's very heartwarming to hear that.
Well, I mean it.
That they land in that way. So my degree is in my master's is in, so undergrad is in psychology, and my master's in counseling and depth psychology. And what depth psychology is it looks a lot at figures like Carl Jung, even Joseph Campbell, figures that look at symbolism, mythology, story, and look at the power of narrative. And I mean, we can even look today at attachment theory and see how impactful the power of an individual's narrative is.
That's right. Yeah.
And so for me, going into meditation, a lot of times, I mean, I'll utilize different practices as they're needed, but one of my favorite ways of using meditation is connecting with the unconscious.
Yeah.
And so when I see myself diving into the unconscious, I see myself going into that space of dreams, that space where I'm receptive to something that I'm not creating, but that still brings images, sensation. It's receptive and welcoming.
Yeah.
And so part of my process in bringing that forward has to do with recognizing, okay, what is the unconscious? This space of kind of wild unknown, all kinds of things can be there, but then also looking at figures like Campbell and Jung that discuss how these symbols are archetypal in a lot of us and how they show up. So for instance, a field can often be very emblematic of where someone is in a moment. And that's one reason why I often start people there, because it's a way of visually or in an imaginary sort of sense, bringing this tangential space of, okay, how do I feel right now?
That's nice.
It might feel chaotic, it might feel calm, but it's sort of a secondary way of viewing oneself.
Right.
You know, instead of saying, look directly at yourself, which can be a little bit difficult, bring in an image and just start to reflect on the image. And then there's a process I'll go through of, okay, well, finding yourself into a deeper nature space, maybe crossing a threshold of some kind, like going into a forest or crossing a river. And depending on how deep we're trying to get in a session, I might go ahead and go through several of these kind of transitions. But each transition, going back to invitations, each transition is an invitation to delve deeper into the unconscious.
Oh, so nice.
It's kind of a way of inviting a little more relaxation and a little more receptivity. And so I utilize nature first and foremost as a primary means of inviting whatever's there. Because there's so much projection that can come into nature. All kinds of things are present there. It's a living force. It's something beyond our control. And so there's such a wealth of projections that can come up from the ego and from the experience. But then also such a wealth of content that can come up from the natural unconscious as well, the greater collective unconscious. And so as you're going through, people kind of start to interact with both. And what that is kind of one of the most essential pieces that I find in doing that style of meditation, because as people start to notice both and start to notice, oh, this is something that feels like it's coming from me or my ego, and oh, this is something that feels like it's coming from somewhere beyond. When you start to notice that, that's when the real treasure starts to come forward for someone.
That was so articulate. That was nice. No, that was so nice. Those are some good backdrops for us. You know, nature, it's this open field, and has within it the feeling of something bigger than yourself. I think that that's really the key in providing that invitation, is to connect for everybody. I think there's different portals into that, but leading someone into what that is for them. When I say leading, creating the landscape, right, that would, afford someone that possibility to feel that. So I think, you just do such an amazing job with. I also feel like your voice is so powerful, and it almost feels like you're tapped into right in that little sweet spot of like, you're aware of what you're doing and saying, but that you're also in the space that you were talking about, that receptive sort of unconscious place.
Yeah, that's a very interesting observation, that kind of space in between the two of being receptive but still being able to facilitate.
Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit for yourself in terms of what being in that space for you is? Because I mean, for myself, I know that is meditation. Being able to hold these spaces, being able to flow whilst being receptive, and just being in that zone.
That's right. That's again well said. Let me see if I can tap into the answer.
Breath always brings that sense of being in the moment.
And since it's such an important question, I really want to answer it well, with spirit driving the answer here. So similar to kind of what I'm doing here, I really try to let as much of Melissa kind of, at least initially, take a step back and allow for a deep, before we're even talking about entering another human into the space. So for me, just to kind of get myself as connected as I can be to source. And then it's sort of then allowing the return of Melissa to at least be in my body, be present. It's not just my own personal private meditation. Then it's just like off to the races and I'm doing my own thing. But I have a responsibility to whoever I'm supporting. So then there's the listening. It's very much of a guided, like, how do I hold a space for this person? I'm not really thinking about what I have to say or do. I know if I'm tapped into it, kind of like what you said about being in the zone, and I'm paying attention to the person in front of me, it's kind of that magical thing where I think it just happens.
Well, it's a beautiful process that you just described, because what I heard you just describe was, one, being with yourself in the moment, seeing how you've arrived, but then becoming observant of yourself, kind of putting Melissa aside and becoming observant of Melissa, but then this extra piece. And it feels like that extra piece is that attuning arm, which then reaches out and kind of grasps whoever you're with, whatever's present, whatever's being worked with, and then attunes with what's present there. So it goes from checking in with oneself, observing and being present with oneself, then observing and being present with the environment, and then bringing that micro and macrocosm together. And there's just such a perfect thread there of that connection within, connection around, and connection with all.
And in some ways, it's all the same. It's all the same. Like, there is no separation, really. When you are really in that, like, even now, like, we're just, I don't know if that was a sound for us. Actually, have you been paying attention to our time?
I think we've got just a few more minutes.
Oh, okay. Well, I think, I could talk with you all day about this topic, man. But yeah, I think that we're here to just, do what we're talking about, not just in a counseling or supportive role, but if we can all just try to show up like this in life, no matter what we're doing, we're casting that invitation unconsciously. And I think that that's an important aspect of this work, that it can kind of have that ripple effect beyond what we're doing. Yeah.
You know, that process is so much of kind of meditation, even that first, let me check in with myself, because I know that connection well enough. I can tell if there's something off. Once I attune to that connection within this moment, so now we're starting to become more present. Okay, now let me observe that and see if I can expand, not just being present with myself, but myself and the environment.
Yes.
And then, okay, let me expand that a little bit more, not just myself and the environment, but myself and others that I can attune with the environment. And so it becomes this journey of how can I be whole here? How can I be whole here? How can I be whole with another?
Yeah.
And it just becomes this greater and greater reflection of finding deeper wholeness, which, if you ask me, that's what love is.
Amen to that. Yeah.
So I think that's a good moment for us to be able to wrap on, a good key to bring it back to.
Thank
you
you.
said, thank you.
Oh my God, thank you. I've enjoyed talking with you.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I look forward to doing more.
Oh my God, that was awesome.
And like you said, it's a treasure to be able to be in this world, doing this practice, and offering this path for whoever's interested. So
Yes,
thank you for sitting with you. Thank you for sitting with me now. More
thank you
than I was ready for.
Thank you for sharing this space with me, and for letting me, talk with you and learn. I feel like I'm going to leave here with so many more gifts, just because of you being you. So thank you for that.
You are such a treasure. Thank you so much again.
Thank you,
and
Breathe
thank you all for joining us.
community,
And we hope to see you again soon one time.
Bye for now.
Until next time, enjoy the journey.